Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Talkback episode for Firmament Academy, our end of the rainbow here. With me are my wonderful players who need no introduction because you've watched the whole series. You know who they are. Um, and I want to start off by saying how grateful I am to all of you for coming in and doing this story with me. That's how I want to start. And then the first thing I want to relate before I start asking questions, um, this game was in the conceptual phase, inspired by various shows that I wanted to play around with some of the ideas and the aesthetics for. Uh, One of them, the most particularly, is the anime Revolutionary Girl Utena. Um, during which there is a student council in that show, and they do live in a tower, and they do want to smash the world's shell. So I thought that was a really neat that it turned out that we got that way. Even though I wasn't directing it towards that from the beginning, because very much this this did not go. I didn't have a specific ending in mind when I started, but it sure wasn't this. Um, I'll tell
Really?
you
What
that.
what would you feel comfortable sharing about what
Yeah, because
sort of
this
idea?
felt like inevitable almost.
I know, and that started coming into view for me at the same time it did for you guys. Uh, as you guys were like, "Oh, this is a prison. This is a trap. This is," I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, it is, isn't it?" Um, so it's one of those wonderful things about co-creating where the initial idea goes in a direction that you did not know it would go, and you didn't have any way of possibly knowing that because it required the creativity and perspective of other people, and I love that about this medium. Uh, so yeah, that's where I'm at. But I'd like to ask you all. Um, if you have any questions for each other or for me
Mm.
after all this.
Oh,
Hmm.
I mean, I feel like a ton, right?
Hmm.
Uh, I kind of want to start with questions for you, Sarah, if that's
Okay.
okay. Um, what were you what were you able to pull together with the particular choices we made with our character construction, right? Like we built out very specific character concepts together. How much of that made its way into your planning? And like how did it help? Like I'm trying to help people who are watching this understand. In the System Girl by Moonlight, we get these beautiful playbooks, right, that have specific parameters to them that are still highly customizable. Each of us were able to dive into them fully and make them very very specific. You gave us a lot of latitude. I can speak for my part. You allowed me to play a Living Wish. That is definitely a generous GM decision, right? Um, so, how did that feel as we were coming to you with those ideas, and what came out of that for you?
Um, that was the like before that I had ideas, right? But then the ideas weren't able to take shape until you guys gave me your character ideas and I could take what you'd given me and weave it into something. Um, and I think I mostly succeeded except for Lobi. Um, like
I think it worked. It's okay. Like I think it worked really well. Like her inclusion is inherently like I'll go into it more after, but I think just the plot that we went with was very specific for Lobi as well.
mm, Yeah, I think it worked. Yeah, don't get me
Hmm.
wrong. I think it worked. It's just, I didn't. I wanted to get more. If we had had probably one more episode, I probably would have worked in more Lobi backstory, but it just didn't happen.
Hmm.
But the other three backstories, I did my best to weave into a coherent narrative that would fit well with that, and that was where we got a lot of the enemies or opponents or antagonists or whatever you want to call them in this are monsters with human hearts,
Mhm.
because that's uh, one of the specific points of the playbook that we used, the series book that we used in Girl by Moonlight, is that the monsters are redeemable.
Mhm.
And that is, I think, a big factor in why this turned out the way it did, because, I made it a combat heavy, quote unquote, episode in the first one where, literally the enemy was attacking you with a sword. Um, and you guys resolved that in your own special way. And I was like, oh, this is where this is going. Okay, great. Now I know how to write the rest of the episodes.
Love that.
Hmm.
So that's where that went.
Can I highlight that too for a second? Just want
Do
to
it.
really this is a little bit of our back chat stars and wishes stuff spilling over into the talkback. Sarah's amazing and wonderful, and one of the beautiful, generous things that comes from playing at Sarah's table is I can do something at the end of the first episode, right? Like take the clearly important, deeply powerful sword of truth and be like, nah, it's a toy. It's not dangerous anymore. It can't hurt us. And Sarah's like, bet. All right, that's fine. Cool, whatever. You can do that to my big important thing. I'm gonna make the story beautiful anyway. And I'm gonna roll with it and I'm gonna affirm that because it makes sense in the story and it came from an authentic place. I think we understood that about where everybody was coming from in that moment. Um, Sarah, I feel like we probably did that to you a bunch. I mean, Harken changed the timeline more than once, right?
Mhm.
For example, in terms of big swings, I think everybody did versions of that, right? In the finale, having Lobi decide to permanently put Leontes in prison, right? Is another great example, and Perdita and Fuguea's changing relationship to each other, right, and the way that mechanically manifested as a way throughout that also interacted with Harkin's changes. So I guess my question for you, Sarah, is, um, uh, do we need to apologize? Like, are you like,
Who messed up the most? Or who messed up your plans the
no,
most is
like,
what we want to know.
my real question is, what would you share with people at home about how to, as effectively as you were able to do here, be such a generous collaborator at the table, yes, and what people are doing, and still maintain the coherence of the world so seamlessly, so that there is true co-creation at the table. Everybody's creativity is being validated and put up, right? But you're still taking us in a coherent direction.
Mhm. Yeah, and I don't know if I have a general answer for that, but an answer that is specific to me is that for me, um, I don't have a set end point. I don't want it. I specifically if I get one, if I get a idea in my brain, oh, this is where this story is going, I'll immediately attempt to like make counter stories to that in order to keep me from getting too cemented onto one plot line. Um, and so every time that you guys do one of those really big plays that you do, um, took my sword. I love, was it
In the
sword?
first episode,
What
Sarah,
was that?
and I'm your.
Um,
Why would I do that to you?
I know. Um, but if you do that without, if that happens and you have a story in your head that is complete or mostly complete, then it will break your story. If you do not have, or I'm saying you, but this is me. If for me,
Yeah.
um, you do not, you keep it nebulous. You keep various ideas of, oh, this would be good, this would be good, this would be cool, in your head, but do not pin it down. Then you can find a shape as it emerges, and that makes for a, I think, a better story, because it, if you're running the game, it can be tempting to make to want to what am I saying, to get attached to a story beat or a follow up or something like that. um but you know, and it does happen to me, but if you do that, you might as well just be writing a novel, and that's fine. That's also a great thing to do. It's just not this. This is something where we're working together and forming a shape of a story together, and that is a better thing to me. It's something that fits me better for sure.
Love that. I know that I'm kind of asking a lot of questions. Is it okay if I ask my co-stars here, like the rest of the
Please.
cast, something? Um, what was your what was the most memorable moment to you right now? Obviously, this might change 6 months from now, looking back on it. But having just filmed the series, what was the most memorable moment for each of you, and why?
I think I think that first episode comes to mind a lot where Harken, they're not transformed. They're not a super magical person, but they're just like, I'm going to grab this person's hand. And that kind of cemented who Harken was going to be for me. This very like emotional, very hard on their sleeves person. This person that's like, despite the danger, is going to throw themselves into a situation. And that kind of just carried him like from the first episode to the last. I think another moment would be like, we're in the caverns, we're in this cave like system, we're in the mist, and he's going through it and he's just yelling out like, come at me, whatever's out there. Just being that wedge, that driving force to like just saying we keep going forward.
I think for me it was maybe the first episode that I was in, which was the second one. Um, I think it was just that beginning initial, like, this is my first time playing in the system. Uh and I think it was very much seeing how quickly everyone else is so good about kind of incorporating, already being like, yeah, Lobi's been here the whole time. Like, we've known Lobi like the last year. Like, everyone was so good about already incorporating that into how you all RP'd with Lobi, you know, to be like, oh yeah, of course, Lobi. You know, it's not like this me just showing up here on this is my first thing on the channel, so it's like me showing up here for the first time, being like, "Hi, this is my first time meeting everyone. We had session 0 and then this. Hello."
I think for me, it's the moment where we're hearing the hard truth. When we hear the whispers, voices telling us things that we do not want to hear, but they're true.
Yeah, that was really good. For me, it's a little more spread out, but I was really excited to get to play the Stranger playbook as a contrast to a lot of the other stuff that I do in this space. There's very emotionally forward, or like very, very. Uh, I lean into emotion a lot. To play something where there's mechanically enforced detachment even before the full idea of entry had formed in my head, was exciting to me as a challenge, especially in a system that is so specifically geared mechanically and thematically toward emotional connection. I was really happy in a weird way to get to experience what I was hoping to with that in part. Part of what sticks out to me is I got to tap into how lonely entry felt a lot of the time, not understanding what your emotional connections to each other, your characters' emotional connections to each other were like, and feeling on the outside of that. And then in contrast to that, a lot of what stands out to me as most memorable are quieter interpersonal moments of meaningful attempts at connection with entry that allowed entry to find an opportunity at their own personhood through these people around them. Um, so I know it's not a specific moment, but those are the elements of the overall story, more than the specifics of the plot, even that that I think are going to sit with me most profoundly for the longest amount of time, and that also really felt like a beautiful way to engage with what I know was also a challenging choice at the table for the reasons I just mentioned. Um, so yeah, I want to thank everybody, all four of y'all, for in your own ways, all engaging with that so usefully. Sometimes comically, sometimes movingly, sometimes as a foil, sometimes as a life raft. Right? I thought that was beautiful. Y'all are awesome, and that was really cool. So that's what that's what I'm gonna remember most, I think.
And I think it's funny how we take our first initial concepts of our characters. Like Danny, me and you had talked about like how Entry and Harken are going to be like bros and brothers, this and that. But
Yeah,
then we kind of saw that relationship go sideways, but it
yeah,
made space for Entry and Perdita to get closer. And I
right.
was like, no, this makes more sense.
Yeah,
Someone that can talk to him on the level that he's at, get him to see some like a different way.
no. And we still got to be boys a little bit, right? Like we still were able, not non-gender boys in my case, but like yeah, like very, very, very much got to do that. We got to do our patter. Harkin got to want to punch entry, try, and that was fun. Like that
As
was the
I like to
cool.
say,
Yeah, yeah.
the boys, but with an I instead of a Y.
I see him.
The concept of the boys,
Exactly.
the energy.
That's exactly the energy. It was great. So we still got to do some of that, but you're right. It did naturally evolve so that the relationship with Perdita and with Fuguea, as two parts of a person, and then as they became more and more fully separate people, right, or separate elements of a person, or perhaps a manifestation of a person in two different ways, whatever it seems to be, right. Um, was really nice. That emerged really nicely. And then Lobi, our dynamic was really nice too. And there was an obstinance, right, that Lobi had that was like, yeah, but no, I protect people. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, just like, yeah, but no, like, you can't logic me into this, and stop trying. It's not
Hmm.
going to work. You can give me all the pillows you want. I'm still not sleeping.
I will sleep. However, if someone
However,
needs me, I'm a light sleeper.
is that really resting, Lobi? Um, I have a million more questions, but I do not want to monopolize this, so I'm going to overtly throw it to somebody else.
I mean, Ran, what was your most memorable?
I already no, I did say that it's the
Yeah.
Oh,
the um the voices, the wall of voices
yes, 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 yes,
that
yes.
we are terrified of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I
Which
guess
was
my
such a
question
cool
is,
idea. Yeah.
I think I have a question like for everyone. Like,
Mhm.
is how the game from where you started to where you ended? Is this where you thought you would land at? Like as the GM, as the players, like is this where you thought your character was going to end, or in your mind you already kind of had it like this is kind of the ending I want, or like a concept of it? And what was that concept?
I did not have a concept at all. I just thought playing a conjoined twin is kind of interesting and it's a challenge. Um, so my main concept is how harmony as a concept is a lie, and how the conjoined twins, they are actually in constant conflict with each other. They are not on the same page. um I didn't really know where Sarah's world is going to take us, nor did I want to know. I kind of, as a player, I tend to start with a character and just make sure I understand who the character is or who the characters are. And based on what happens to them, react. Because like in real life, we don't know who we're going to end up being in 10 years, even like next week. I don't know who I'm going to be next week, so I don't want to put too much of a um, box around what my ending might become. I do think at a certain point it clicked in me, because I love a little bit of a tragedy or irony in the game, I suppose. So I think at a certain point, maybe like halfway through this series, I was like, there is only gonna be one of them in the end. I'm not sure which one,
Hmm.
but there's only gonna be one.
Yeah, love it.
I also didn't go in with an idea of what I wanted her end goal to be in terms of where she should land. Not before the first couple episodes, at least. But I think it worked, what I was saying before, with how the story ended up working, anyways, with kind of what I wanted to tell, which was I had two concepts for Lobi. One actual more serious, one kind of silly. Which was the main one being she had a story very much of someone who was neurodivergent but wasn't told by her family or anyone her entire life, except, in this form, magical girl who wasn't told anything, but clearly things were different around her. Like, she noticed all these things growing up that separated her from her family, made her different, while the rest of her family seemed to be, all her older siblings are like living completely normal lives, seem to be having everything go well for them in terms of how a life should be led. And she was the one trying to figure out, like, what's wrong with me, what's going on here. And it was only later that she found out about the whole magical girl thing. But I wanted to relate to that story, similar to myself, who only found out about neurodivergencies way later, um, already as an adult. um, the silly one was, and I don't even know if Sarah knows this because I don't know how, I didn't really put it in the backstory, but her last name is Zaman. Um, Lobisomem, Lobisomem in Portuguese means werewolf.
Ah,
And the idea of a werewolf is that in Brazil, in their folklore, is it's the seventh son of a seventh son, which is why I made her the seventh daughter of a seventh daughter. Um, but that's how I kind of thought of her a lot of the time, that she's kind of this like very pack creature. She lives for making sure everyone else is safe. That's her main priority. And that she, with the Guardian uh, pack inherently, there's a whole rule system of kind of things she was allowed to do, things she's not allowed to do as part of her code of conduct. And I always thought of the interesting part of a lot of these like werewolf stories, things like that, is that they have a very strict set of guidelines that they have to live by in order to make sure that the people around them aren't getting hurt because of what they are. But kind of thought of it in the same light. It was weird, but that was kind of the entire initial idea
Super
I had for her.
I
and
kind of want to
thematically
share.
relevant. Sorry, go.
Sorry.
No, no. No, I was just
Oh,
saying thematically relevant to what we ended up doing also. Like,
Exactly.
yeah,
That's what I was saying. Like in the end, it kind of worked out with like the story I wanted to tell for her anyway. So
yeah. I was gonna share how I named my characters. So Perdita means lost or ruin. So I kind of maybe subconsciously overshadowed a little bit as like she's actually the lost one. Um, Perdita is the name of the main character in Shakespeare's Winter's Tale. Wait, no. Is it Pericles or Winter's Tale?
no, I think it's a Winter's Tale, but I'll double check.
Winter's Tale. Yeah, I was right. Um, and it kind of symbolizes her. This is a character who was abandoned, but which in this case, not necessarily abandoned, but kind of like put in a shelf in a way, or like put in a display case in a kind of sense. Meanwhile, Fuguea is kind of derived from fugue, which is one a musical composition form in which I'm just reading here a short melody or phrase is introduced by one part and successfully taken up by others and developed by interweaving the parts. So she's the one who is the more like complex, more whole one who has a lot of emotions, a lot of like different motivations. But it also means in psychiatry, a state of period of loss of awareness of one's identity, often coupled with flight from one's usual environment, associated with certain forms of hysteria and epilepsy. So I kind of wanted to invoke a little bit of a sense of one being the lost but perfect, like character of within that wish environment, and the other being the little edgier and not really sure who she is, what she wants to do kind of vibe, which the two definitely does not fit with one another. But one of the other like favorite moments was definitely the talking, like the facilitation of the dialogue from both Entry and Lobi specifically. It was so exciting to see how much similarities between each half of these two characters had with like the other characters in the group, and then how like it kind of made me realize how they are incomplete um, without the other half. So that was kind of exciting discovery for me.
That's awesome. For Entry, so I was really excited to get to play a character in the tradition of like Pinocchio and Frankenstein's monster, who's also like more in more modern contexts like Data or Violet Evergarden, right? Um, a few others. People who question whether or not they're people for reasons that are often more external than internal. People who learn how to be people in a way that is sometimes we're dealing with genre storytelling, so some elements of it are heightened, but are hopefully, certainly in the references I was just making, at least uh, deeply relatable and resonant. It's why we keep telling stories about these kinds of characters over the course of hundreds of years. In the case of the references I just made, and lots of other characters are probably older than that. Um, I I don't tie into where anything is going to go too tightly, but I do think things through a lot. So actually, in my case, surprisingly, I kind of landed in a place where I thought this character might go in a broad sense, right? Like in the sense of like, I want to be a real boy. I figure out how to be a real boy, right? The way I got there was very specifically directed by what we found at the table, and I really wasn't married to what was going to happen. Sarah, I hope it's okay. I'm going to share this with the class. Um, I wrote to Sarah about possibly having Entry die halfway through this, or more specifically, more likely, turn against the party, right? Like be lost to like in eclipse, be
Mm.
stuck there because it was around when entry was 2 stress away within eclipse from that happening. And it talked about what might be better for the story and the table and what might be interesting to dig into. And I'm really glad we stuck with the direction we went with because it helped facilitate the story that we told at the table from my position within it, from my part of it, in a way that was really nice. And I love playing entry. I was just thinking right now about like, damn, I don't get to play entry anymore. That's real sad. I like playing entry. Entry is fun. Uh, and it's a fun challenge. It's also just like it's lots of bits. There's lots of serious stuff. I get an opportunity to talk about philosophical things. I get the opportunity to get to play like the infuriating and heightened character that also is like a bit humorless is discovering humor. Like it was a really fun opportunity. I think the other ideas of where it could have gone would have been just as earned, would have been interesting in their own ways. We can't know where it would have landed, but like I said, I'm really glad we did these. And so I share that to highlight that like there kind of is no bad option as long as you're really putting a lot of effort into thinking through why you're doing a thing and you're centering what's happening at the table when you're making those decisions for yourself and as a group in the moment and in between sessions, right? In my view, yeah, it was, and also one of the things I really love that helped get us to entries ending is it's so much fun. I hope people can see this when they're watching. It's a lot of fun to play shit you're bad at, right? Like a lot of times when people are playing TTRPGs, whether it be in the case of what we're doing here in front of cameras, like in front of an audience, or just in a home game, there's a lot of pressure to not mess up, right? Or like they want to succeed. And these are things that oftentimes literally are chance based. It's not a thing you can control.
Mhm.
The dice fall where they fall. It's not like we can affect the odds of that strategically, but past a certain point, it is not in our control. That's part of the beauty of it, right? Um, it was so fun and interesting and important for getting entry to where entry landed at the end in a way that I couldn't have predicted. Like I might have had a sense of, okay, this kind of art can happen in general, but the specifics matter. Wouldn't have happened if not for the embrace of what this character design, narratively and mechanically, was bad at, and not just by me, but by the whole table, right? Because some of that pressure is social. Some of that pressure to not lean into failure is the sense that other people at the table are going to have a worse time because your character is not good at this or good at that or succeeding at this or that in the plot. I play these games mostly to tell stories in an interesting context with interesting people that I hope are meaningful and moving and resonant and real as an expression of artistry. I know that's not why everybody plays these games, but I do think they are. That is a part, consciously or unconsciously, of what these games are, right? Especially games like this, but I'd argue even crunchier games, right? Have that. This isn't just wargaming. We're not just moving nameless figurines in groups across a map to pretend to fight each other, right? Even when we're doing combat heavy stuff. um I don't know, I think that was key for me in finding a way to earn where entry went, um without trying to control it too much, right? uh but always keeping an eye on what it can be and trying to keep it honest to the concept of who the character was.
For me, as I mentioned, I intentionally did not have a endpoint for the game, but uh, I did have a goal, and that was specifically for to give opportunity for all the characters to have growth. and I knew from just like seeing what all of you had done in the past, um, that all I had to do was give those opportunities, and it would happen. Um, so in that sense, the game turned out just the way I wanted it, because we got there. None of these characters are the same as they were when they started, and they've all become something greater than they were, and I think that's very satisfying for me.
Love that.
I think when I think about Harken, I go back to when we first were talking about this world, talking about the game, and how we had all kind of settled on this society that, you know, was okay with being lied to, essentially. Like, hey, like, this is what's going on in your life, this is what's happening, here's the information that you're allowed to have. And immediately my first thought was, my character's going to break free.
Hmm.
My character is not going to take this line down. And that comes also from me as a person, where it's like being restricted, being told to be comfy in this box. That's not a life worth living. I remember specifically at one point I had Harken say, I'm a caged bird with its wings clipped. Because at that point, even if the door is wide open, where are you going?
Mm.
You can step out, but you can't fly anywhere. The only place that you have to go is back indoors. And I think my brain goes into, because this was like when we were initially talking about it, and in my head I was like, okay, we're going down more anime route. My brain went into when we started saying these people were living underground, and there were these big, like, these cities above them. It went to Gurren Lagann immediately, because the first episode of Gurren Lagann, they break out of their underground city and see the world.
Mm.
They see that starry expanse. You have that split down in the middle of the horizon where you see both the sun and the moon and stars. And that's just seared in my mind of that's where their adventure starts.
Mm.
At the end of that first episode, like, forget a pilot and 3 episode, trial. Episode 1 is when the ball gets rolling, it keeps rolling. I think off rip I knew Harken was going to fight for freedom. It was just a matter of time of us figuring out, hey, this is a prison. We need to go. We need to get out.
Does anyone have like any, and it could be for an NPC for you, Sarah, but does anyone have like any little like character details or like little things they threw like in their backstory or like as part of their character that are just like a fun little tidbit that maybe like didn't get to come out on stream necessarily, but you're like, oh, I had this in there as just like a fun little thing to throw in.
I will say I don't remember if this was exactly explicit, but the guy who was tinkering around trying to make a living wish, whether that was the person who became the living wish or whatever, Francis Carpintero was a nepo baby.
Hmm.
Like the parents were like very powerful and accomplished, and was very much in the shadow of that and not living up to it at all. And part of what drove that character to push in this ever more isolated direction and this ever more dangerous direction for their own safety was that sense of, I got to live up to this expectation, and I don't have the juice, right? But I got to find a way to do that anyway. And I feel like there were some ways that played out, and there were other ways. Obviously, it wasn't important to the story. But that's the only thing I can think of, because honestly, Entry's kind of an open book. You know what I mean? Like, there's not, in a funny way, but like, there's not,
Yeah.
not a lot of hidden stuff there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Something that I didn't get to play out and wish I had. This is more of something that I thought was a quality of my character, which is jealousy.
Mm.
and competitiveness between the two of them. I think they are like jealous of each other, and like there is this survival of the fittest kind of thing going on at first, or I was kind of conceiving that a little bit. But like Sarah, you were saying, the story and the counter story, it was never like set in stone for
Mhm.
me. And as the story developed further, it kind of became more of like I pivoted away from that entirely. If not, like I think there is still kind of a healthy competitiveness, and the beginning part where Perdita doesn't want Fuguea to be a part of her kind of became like a defense mechanism almost.
Mm.
Like if she ended up being the person who was sealed here and or rather preserved here because of the wish, then subconsciously she doesn't want her sister to be a part of this, because then it means they're both here. They both didn't get to be real. So I think that like repellent against each other still exists, but the motivation is more love than jealousy.
Something that I didn't get to talk about was Jason had a little more guilt in him to than he even talked about. Uh, like he um, like he was trying to get in. You know, he was let out by the sword. The sword was able to get him out of the trap, and then he couldn't get back in, right? But the sword could get back in itself, and so that's what he was like, okay, get in and take care of it, get through and uh, open this up so that they can get out, or I can get in, or something. And the sword, you know, is a weapon. You know, its purpose is to kill, and so did that's how it went about the task. It went about by taking over this student and getting her to sacrifice her friend um, in order to open up this world, and failed to do it. But just that guilt was riding him for sure. He's like, "Oh, I did this. This is my responsibility, even though I didn't personally do it because I didn't think it through enough." So that's the only thing that comes to my mind about
Hmm.
unfulfilled potential. Didn't get to detail that.
Yeah.
I'll admit I took a more of a back seat with Harken. I remember last year I put a lot of thought, a lot of details into my characters. Like I did a lot of these dramatic things. And this time I was just like, you know what? Let's chill a little bit. Let's just relax. For most people who, if you have ever seen me, my other thing, like in the other like games I've been in, I'm usually a lot more chatty, a little bit more active. This time I was like, I'm gonna take a back seat. Like I, I trust my fellow players, and my fellow players came through. They got this, and I enjoyed that, playing a more simplistic character, playing a character that had a singular goal. There's not 20 things running through their minds. They're just like, I want my brother, straight up. Whatever gets me towards my brother, I'm gonna do it. Whatever deals I gotta make, whoever I gotta talk to, whoever I gotta go through, I want my brother. And it feels nice just playing a very like almost not tunnel vision, but one thought mind character versus there's like these layers I got to keep peeling back and back, and that gets exhausting playing back to back to back.
Hmm. I think it was very similar with Lobi in that sense, where in like she didn't have this mystical, crazy backstory with all these things happening. She had a very mundane childhood, but was just kind of left to the side. She was the youngest, not the youngest, but one of the youngest out of a ton of siblings, who already is like, everyone's already kind of figured everything out. Like everyone has like their career paths are going on, and she's like, what can I do to stand out in this situation? If I become the most helpful, if I become like the one child that has never gotten in trouble and will just be able to help out in every occasion, if I can make myself useful, I can make myself like noticed by my parents. And I think that was just something that not necessarily like overtly said, but what I was able to add in. But I
Mhm.
do like throwing a couple details in there. Like I don't know if it were to ever come up, but I was like, she's good at driving. Is actually one skill she's like really good at. Um, that was the one thing weird thing that she was like naturally better at compared to other things. And then I have the list of all her siblings. I don't know if again, I wasn't sure if it was ever going to come up, but I was like, in case Sarah needs it, here are her parents' names. Here's all 10 siblings.
That's amazing. I love
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that.
I
Really
love
good.
that so much. Like, in case something happens, here's a whole family tree.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
In order from oldest to youngest: Lucy, Marin, Benny, Connie, Genevieve, Terry, Lobi, Olivia, Mina, and Lily.
Nice.
And then her parents, Lucas and Miranda.
Beautiful. That's really good. Now I just want to know all of her parents, like all of her moms. A seventh sister, a seventh daughter of a seventh daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like what about that family?
I
Uh,
didn't go that far.
I know.
I should
Um,
have.
no, please. What are y'all gonna miss the most about playing your characters, or Sarah, in your case, this world? I kind of answered that before, so that's part of why I'm throwing it out at you.
I think that was just the interactions with the other students, you know? Like I wish like we could have like I'm so happy with the story we told. It was amazing, but I'm like, if we could do this like traditional kind of like magical girl style where it's like longer episodes, more like monster of the week where we're just like doing kind of silly stuff
Hmm.
also in the meantime with everyone else to slowly like
Do our
bond even more.
yeah,
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 yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Like I feel like
Season
it would have been
3.
great.
A bottle
Exactly.
episode where we're in detention together, everybody.
I didn't want to see it as season 3, but I was so tempted to be like, and one day everyone gets a letter from Lobi saying we have to find entry.
And then Fuguea is like, "There's this entry guy."
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Found it.
yeah.
I think I well, the sappy answer and the very true answer is playing with all of you. And the true part being, I just enjoy. I think the thing I enjoy the most beyond the story, which is extremely intriguing and complex and satisfying, is like I was telling my partner about how this is the table that I enjoy the just the sheer amount of organic role play the most. Like I don't think I have ever had an experience where I'm at a table and every single one of you here is just like I feel like we can role play and we can just talk for hours on
Yeah.
end. And the story will just unfold as we speak. And you're all so good at just like picking up what everyone else put down. And like I think one of my favorite moments, and going back to that, one of my favorite moment and one of my proudest moment is when we're just like talking and then making discoveries and then kind of figuring out the direction of the finale. And then we're just there. We didn't even roll anything. We didn't even ask any questions. It just happened. I think I will miss that. And I do think I will also miss because IGM, and sometimes you have to talk to yourself between two NPCs, and that's stressful. And I quite enjoyed sometimes having to talk to myself
Mhm.
between my twin characters, and it was also stressful, but like the fun kind. And as well as just like looking for an appropriate song for to
Yes.
fully set the tone of the specific episode that is coming up, which I'm not super certain, but kind of having to find the one that maybe will hit a keyword. And I think the more like the later half of the series, I start to find it a little bit easier to do that, which is, kudos to you, Sarah, for being very good at like overshadowing to us what is happening without letting out anything. But I was like, I'm so happy to be able to almost feel like she's bringing these lyrics out because of these organic moments that we had, even though I'm like, this is a Sarah Bareilles song. So thank you, Sarah.
I do have a question for you later about the songs, but I don't want to cut off Blackwell and Sarah.
I'm done.
No, but not just cut off you. I know Blackwell and Sarah still need to answer, but I would just want to. I'm saying it out loud so y'all can help me remember. I want to ask you about the songs after that. This is what we do. So everybody at home knows we're very polite people. We polite off with each other. So, no, you go. No, you go. I want to hear you first.
I am going to miss. I'm going to miss playing in this world. You guys, for those who don't know, Girl by Moonlight is a co-created world. So in our session 0, we went through, and all of these people around me gave me all of these beautiful gifts for how this world was structured. The wishes were all the sort of the poisoned wishes and the troubles that it caused and etc. That all came from our session 0, and it was such a great thing because once we were through with our session 0, I was like, oh, I see. Now I understand what this show is about. And getting to play in this world has been a great deal of fun. Getting to pull the strings behind these characters, getting to be a redeemable brother who made a mistake, getting to be a creepy little guy who should have been punched more than he was. It was all a lot of fun. I am gonna miss that for sure.
Follow-up question before Blackwell goes, because it's related to what you were saying. How much, because I know we talk so much in our session 0 about the politics and very like everyone's different political opinions on like how this world is structured and all that. How much did that affect, because I don't know how much you had planned before our session 0 for the story, how much that affected pre and post session 0, essentially? Like, how did that shift your plans?
Oh yeah, there was before session 0, I had the notion of the Sword of Truth being a sort of, well, double-edged sword that brought out the truth in that was uncomfortable, that was difficult, that was repressed. So I had that at the beginning as this is something I'll be able to throw in, maybe get some sword fights or something. I don't know. We'll see. And that was all I had before session 0. I had held it off. I managed to restrain my brain from filling it in more until then, and so it really created the world. It did. It was Firmament Academy would have been something completely different in every way with the different session 0.
Things I'm going to miss. I think that's the hard part. I'm content with everything that has happened. I'm very happy with what went down, what went on. Do I wish that we had more time to explore the school life of it all? Like, Harken being that outsider kind of character, the one that didn't have magic. Sure, but I talked about that enough, like in game. I'm happy. I'm happy with where the story went. I'm happy with the discoveries that we made with our characters. I'm happy that we got to show the different forms of like friendships and like how a friend group operates. Like some people are just going to mesh well more in a friend group than others. And then some people are going to, not agree, but it's still like they're still there for each other.
Mhm.
And I think that's a lot of conversations that people need to have nowadays. You're part of a friend group. There's so many different lines and crisscrossiness of it, but you're still there for each other. I'm happy. I'm content with this.
Mm.
Now, do I want a season 3 of like what we're all doing in this new magical world? And I like how we're saying season 3. Like, what happened to season 2? We don't talk about season
No,
2.
this was season 2.
This is
Yeah,
season
Season
two.
two. We're talking about
It
season one.
is. Oh
The
my God,
last
it is.
season one.
Because in Girl by Moonlight, it assumes there was a season one prior.
Mhm.
To it.
Right.
Right. Now we got to do season 1. Like, we got to do our
Ooh.
pre-sequel.
Prequel. The prequel.
Prequel. That's what we do.
Oh, I get to go back to being emotionless.
That
Like,
would
we
be
got-
so difficult because it felt like you did so much of the growth part. It's like what you have to like start at the beginning,
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
also
Like he
move to
was,
like the
and
beginning.
they were
But
more.
here,
They were just more distant.
you got to go even more robotic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not
yeah.
talk to anyone. Be
Yeah,
fully
yeah.
because that's easier for you
Except
to
for
get
an
stuff
insult.
done.
Except for in highly logical insults. Um, yeah, that's great to hear, though. I mean, look, I'm content. I'm content with this too. I think we did something really nice.
Oh
there.
yeah.
Speaking of doing something really nice, see how I'm transitioning there. Ran, I said I was going to ask about the songs. You did a lot of really brave, beautiful work of various sorts in this series. Uh, Not least of which was the musical work that you did that you spoke a little bit about your process of selection. Um, a lot of people playing games like this at home in their communities. And I would say in some way all the more so on camera, although we're all professional performers, so there's a little bit of a difference in that. Um, will feel pressure to perform. One of the things that a lot of people talk about when they talk about things like the Mercer effect or whatever was referred to is that, if that is a real thing in any way, is the pressure to live up to being a voice actor, right? The pressure to be able to embody all these different characters, to do these voices, to be this quick, to have the comedy come out, the pathos. Um, as somebody who does not sing in any kind of professional capacity, right? Who it would take a certain amount of courage on my part to try to sing on camera. I would love for you to chat a little bit about what it felt like, to whatever degree you're comfortable, to prepare these songs, to present these songs as the beautiful gifts they were, stunning stuff, all the way through the finale. That finale song choice, and also the choice to deploy it when you did and how you did was really great for the story. It was really great for a finale. It showed a lot of great story sense, and the singing itself was very good. So there's a selection of the song. The singing was very good. Um, I'd love for you to talk about that, and I'd love for you to share anything you might be able to share with folks like myself, who even in a home game would feel quite self-conscious singing at a table, about how to approach that, or like what you might be able to share about like what it feels like from the inside, in a way that might make it seem a little less foreign or scary to us.
Sure, I will immediately kind of destroy the question a little bit by telling you that it's extremely scary for me because I am in no way a professional singer or performer. I am a director who usually sits behind the screen and tell other people to sing good.
Nice.
But I think in home games and things, I'm getting a little bit more brave with that as well. Partially because that I started to do streamed games. For me, I think live streamed games is more theater than playing a home game
Sure.
with friends. So I think I honestly feel more self conscious and scared to sing in front of friends, lest I get laughed at or, take up their time at the table when we're just playing a casual game, rather than like if we're still enjoying a game, we're still telling stories, not with any live audience watching us, but at the same time knowing that there is going to be an audience looking at this video in the future. We are performing in a way. We are like more performers than just players. That makes it a little bit less scary somehow. Um, and I think on top of that, my mindset is more no matter how I sound as a player, it is a character that I'm portraying. I think people will understand, suspend disbelief. What they hear is the character singing, the character doing the music. And I think having that medium present helps kind of create that environment, because I can talk about the performance, I can talk it up, or I can show them what it feels like. Because while I'm not a professionally trained singer, I think sometimes the music, the melodies, and the lyrics speak for themselves, as opposed to because I'm gonna be very self conscious actually, like talking about how good her singing is. Like it would be easier to sing something mediocre than I don't know if that makes sense.
I think it makes a lot of
Um,
Hmm.
and I think over the years, I also discovered a little bit more about my own vocal range. So I think finding the right songs for
sense.
you also could help. Which is, I'm not gonna go find songs that requires Broadway level belting,
Mm-hmm.
or K-pop Demon Hunter songs. That's gonna be super embarrassing.
Right.
Um, but even these couple ones, I'm just like still super self-conscious because I can hear all of the flaws and mispronounced words
Mm.
even as I'm doing it. But at the same time, it's fun, I think, because it feels dangerous. And what better opportunities to challenge ourselves than at a table where you feel safe, where you feel like you can tap into a character that is not yourself, but maybe an aspect of yourself that's kind of enhanced and dilated, and you get to live through that for a moment, or you get to kind of explore a some kind of problem or some sort of pathos through that character. And I like to live through every aspect of who that is, and be it singing, be it um, using costume to help, or miming, I don't know, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Thank
Mhm.
you. That's awesome. And for what it's worth, I do think that that's very, very, I took it as very applicable to home games too, especially the part that I think you touched on about how embodiment makes it feel safer, right? Like being able to,
Yeah.
like having that extra layer. And I do think that is something that exists in TTRPGs, especially these kinds of TTRPGs, ones that are structured in a way similar to Girl by Moonlight. Uh, yeah, I think it's a beautiful gift that it gives. It's cool. Thank you for doing that and being brave. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to close off here. I want to thank you all again for doing this with me. I want to thank you for all of your beautiful performances and all of the heart you put into it, all the talent you put into it. Before we go, I'd like to ask you all for last words. What would you like to say? If you want to say anything. I mean, I'm not going to
I
force
had to
you.
make sure I wasn't muted this time because I was like, I'm not about to do this to me. Like, no, I'm not setting myself up for failure. Uh, Last words. Go out and do the fun, silly thing. Do the brave thing. I know this is going to be shown in the future. This may be shown in like summer, middle of summer, maybe fall. Go out there and do the brave, silly thing in your game. Turn someone's, you know, turn the plot point of a game into a silly, funny thing that your GM now has to maneuver around. Sing a beautiful song. Make a character that at some point everyone's going to love to hate and hate to love. Have fun. At the end of the day, it's a game. You're supposed to be having fun.
Mm-hmm.
Play for the other people at the table. That's the closest to a secret to anything I do here that I've got, right? I play for these 4 people every time we show up and we do this. I play for entry too, and obviously it's not like I don't matter, right? But like I play for the other people here, and I trust that they're going to play for me. If everybody shows up and does it like that, it's fun and magical and surprising and beautiful and challenging and interesting every time. And it kind of doesn't matter what game we're playing, right? I mean, this is a good game. I like Girl by Moonlight, right? As a system. But that's not what makes or breaks it in my experience. It's the people, right? So get yourself some good people, right? And then do everything you can to help them have as much fun as possible and explore everything that excites them. And you'll have a great time.
I was just going to say that as a direct call out for anyone who relates to Lobi, building a community is very important and takes a lot of sacrifice to build friendships and gain those relationships. But if you aren't being vulnerable or putting yourself out there in equal measure, that it's just never going to happen the way you want it to be. And that's a great way to burn yourself out.
I think speaking on the series itself, right now in this moment in our lives, in my personal life, and on a grander scheme of the life that people are living in this moment in time during our soon to be history and the future that is still being made, it is a time to make wishes. And like we have discovered, a wish is a living thing, and it requires cultivation, and it requires active care and building. It's not a thing that you can just hold in your hand or hold in a cage and look at and wait for it to become something. It's something you have to get your hand and feet into the mud and mold it into shape.
I'm going to close this out by once again quoting my favorite anime. If it cannot break out of its shell, a chick will die before leaving its egg. We are the chick. The world is our shell. If we cannot break the world's shell, we will die before being born. So smash the world's shell for revolution. And that's all for us. Thank you all for joining us, and have a great time. Goodbye.